Okay. Wonderful. Well, good afternoon. The good thing about this class is starts at 1 o'clock, so it's easy to say good afternoon. If it's 12 o'clock, then I would be stuck between saying good morning and good afternoon. So in this class, it's nice to start at good afternoon part of it. Now, there is a few announcements that I like to do before I go to the class, and hopefully today we can deliver a few subjects. Now, for the fact that it is the same, can you hear my voice first? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so I don't need to. Wonderful. Now, it's just there is a few announcements that we need to make. Well, basically, it is this class. It's a one link, and it's every Monday. When you click on it, you're gonna take to this class. So I don't need to reset it every week to send this, and it's open for the public. That's one thing. The second part is the fact after the class, also I will publish it on YouTube. So you will have a record for it. So the reason for that is the fact that I would like you to sit back and relax. So if you miss something, that's fine with me, because you always can go back to YouTube channel and you can, pick whatever you missed there. And also, this is the positive part of being online, is that you can eat, you can drink, and feel relaxed. It would be nice if your bandwidth help you to having a live picture, but if you don't, that's fine also with me. Now, for the attendance, the Zoom has a part of their app, which is it is you can I can, after this class, download and see who is attending, who's not, how long they're attending, all these so the attendance, as I said in the earlier class, it's not important for me. The participation is more important for me. But for the school, the attendance is important. So if you're not attending, means that you're not participating. But also the attendance, I will download the list, the whole list, and just forward it to the college. And this is what's required. Now, just something you're probably gonna make you a little bit to relax and laugh. Um, my mother lives in overseas in Kuwait. So after 4 years or something like that, being in Canada, she calls me and she goes, "Well, I called you, but you didn't answer the phone." So I told my mom I was in a school. So her question was, "Well, you've been in Canada for 4 years and you're still in a school?" I said, no, Mom, we are in university, but here we call everything a school. So she goes, "Oh, okay. So you're not wasting your time in a school because you already finished the school." So sometimes I call the college school, I call the university school. Um, so I know in your countries or in my country, we differentiate, but here we call everything a school. Now, I noticed some people comes late, which is also fine. So this is why I give 5 minutes before I start the lecture. And the whole idea is because I went through that. So when I was attending University of Winnipeg in Winnipeg, um, I always had, I came late 2 minutes or 3 minutes late in the class. So I decided to uh, I thought that because I live far away from university, this is why I went late for the class. So I decided to find a place, an apartment just near to the university. So I found an apartment across the university, just a street between me and the university. So I said, this is wonderful. That makes me come on time. And whenever there is a lunch hour, I can go on to the lunch. That's University of Winnipeg. And funny thing, I still went to this class late. And it's was a little bit habit, whether you live far or close, you end up going late. So I realized that sometimes taking 2 3 minutes late is that makes everybody's in a class ready. But if you come early, you can also share the knowledge and the collaboration work with each other, which is important also because the whole concept of this class is really to share knowledge and collaboration. And my job is really to guide you to understand the the the, the course. So mm, it is it is what makes Canada one of the best places to get educated is the culture behind of the education, is the fact that they do have what you call a different culture, is the fact that they try to do the most advanced theories in education. And one of the most advanced theories is the collaborations. And the professor, his job is to help the student to, they will learn. Because the one thing is that that the only constant thing in life is change. And education is part of that, is that whatever you're going to learn today, there's two part of it. Part, some you're going to learn some knowledge, but also there is a part of it which is going to be learning how to learn. So my goal is to teach you these two parts, is the knowledge that to help you to get a job in the market, but also a way and means and tools to utilize, to understand how to keep updating yourself. And this is where you make you a competitive in the market and always advance in the market. So it's important that these two things, we have it managed equally, and creating the culture of participation in the class, collaboration, a creative thinking, out of box thinking. These are all needed skills that you will be helping you to keep to develop it. Um, and that's, I think, because my background in IT, and IT's changed so quickly, so fast, and I had to learn, keep learning. So learning is a journey. It's not a one-shop stop. And if you're looking at learning, you need to take good tools with you to move on with the education. Right now, if you beside I'm teaching, I'm also a student, and I'm also um, working. I try to stay in the market, update it in myself in the market, and also use my previous experience in the future to be ready for future. So I'm preparing some stuff, getting learned a few stuff, and move on with the next 5 or 10 years in my life. Um, Recently, I've passed a certificate to be a financial advisor, and which is I start working for Sun Life, but because of this COVID thing, we had to adjust to it, and and honestly, I always try to look at the positive side of things. So keep in mind, um, this things is might be temporary, might be for good, but what you are going through now is a huge adjustment and a jump, a leap in the future. It's a good thing in a way, and is a bad thing in a way. The good part of it is the fact that you are learning how to live in the future, because the internet and online things is something from the future, and now. In the old days, when I speak with somebody online, consulting someone, they sometimes they don't have enough tools or the application that they can support me of delivering my consultancy. We 15 years ago we launched a very a crucial and a big operation, was in for the telecommunication, with two people on the front end, which is me and another project manager, and we had to switch the task between each other. And it was a core solution for telco, two telco companies. So in one company, he was the project manager, and I was the country manager. And another account, I was a country manager and functional consultant in the same time. All we use is a Yahoo chat, because all the team was to implement. They were in Kuwait, in India, in Egypt, and we were implementing in Iraq. Very risky place, but nobody was willing to come there. So we had no options but to have the whole team working there. And with our skills in in supply of hardwares and softwares and all these, and consultancy and functional and multi skills that we had, we managed to deliver $14 million worth of implementation at the first stage. And that we're talking about 15, 20 years ago. So $40 million was a big chunk. And then this $14 million converted to $74 million. And the $74 million started moving into 100 and 200 and kept growing until it came in, and Huawei purchased our service for a $900 million. Now, did I get anything from it? No. But at that time when I was working, I was getting really paid well, and I got all the services for it. Um, so it is very important that to utilize these tools for you. Now, this is why I think very important for you is really utilize all these collaboration tools that available in the market, um, because the positive side of it is the fact now you have a freedom. The freedom is that the fact some of us uh, will rent a room in downtown of Toronto, paying $2,000 for it or $1,000 just to be near to the jobs market. With these tools, if you are really well of using, know how to use them, then you will be, with that $1,000, probably you can have a nicest cottage on the lake, enjoying your time, just like the pictures you have on right now. All of you having, we love nature. You guys love nature, and can have a nicest house on the cottage, or a cottage on a lake or somewhere, and work from there, because now everybody accepting the situation and start going into this mood of working online. So it is very promising, by the way. It's not a bad thing. I don't see it as a bad thing. I think it's a good, so you can go and see your family meanwhile working from there, because your boss suddenly knows that you don't have to come to the office to deliver the job. And I think I told you once this happened to me in the early jobs that um, I just didn't feel, you know, it's time for me to take a break. So while I'm working, I picked up my bags, flew to Thailand. From Thailand, I took another plane and went to a small island and started working from there. And um, I was working for a company on behalf of the company from that nowhere, no man's land island in the middle of the ocean. And I was dealing with IBM France and Abu Dhabi's oil sector. And we were delivering an upgrade. So in that time, my boss called me and said, I want to see you. I said, well, I am in Koho Samui. Koho means island. So the island called Samui. And he said, what is that? I said, it's somewhere in the Indian Ocean. And he started laughing and goes, okay, so you stay there, how is the work? And start asking me question. And I said, okay, this is done, this is done, this is in the process. I'm in contact with IBM France. They will be delivering the softwares. I'm in contact with Sun, and they have already in the way of setting up more servers. And the team, the implementation team, are already in Abu Dhabi, and they are setting up, doing the consulting. So it's a wonderful feeling to, wake up in the morning. You have a motorcycle, which is a bike, and just you drive around because there is no cars, and in the same time working. So you are in that stage to be strong, to develop that strength in you. Now, the only issue was whether your boss will accept something like that. Now, because of this situation, your future boss will be accepting the situation. So it's a wonderful feeling. Hence, for that, um, we've been working on setting up your groups, because there would be a big project end of the semester that you have to deliver, and it's based on a group. But I've noticed that some students were not able to be member of the group, or some students where the group is incomplete. Now, keep in mind, I like to see every group between 5 to 6 people, no more than 6 and no less than 5. Okay, so to solve this issue, I've already created a few places that you can collaborate. And these tools, you can take them in the future to work with them. And I created a Padlet for you. Uh, Please join. And if you're missing, one member of a group or 2 members, just announce it there. And if you are not aware of which group you are belong to, just announce it there. If you are looking for, uh, you know, um, to join a group, you make an announcement there. And once I look at the Padlet, I would know, it takes me to approve it, and then it gets announced. The second thing I created, which is I will show you these, is the fact that is a Facebook, a hub, which is I will send you these links, that it's belong to the all classes that I'm teaching with the Alpha College right now. So use this also. We share knowledge, we share thoughts, we share memories, and this way we can get to know each other, and we might take this club and move on with it in the future. Because right now, believe me, uh, these things can be very useful for you in the future. Some of you guys will land a good job. Some of you guys will land a job that you're not happy with, and some of you will be looking for a job, and some of you, they have this job available, or they're aware of it. So You can use that club also in the future to, share the resources. How best way of telling it is to create a networking. Now, this is also important for you to know about this, and also uh, use this Zoom chat to speak with each other, writing to each other. And also, there is one more tool that I created, which is I will show it to you right now. Um, Beside the Padlet, there is a Facebook, and there is something called Yammer, which is I will send you also the link to use it. It's like a Facebook, but for education reason. So use these three tools, use this chat here, use the Moodles that the colleges are providing you, and all these three, plus the Moodles, it can help you to collaboration, do a collaboration. It's the whole idea is um, we might not be able to meet face to face anymore, and hopefully even we're going to meet in the future, it's not going to be as easy as it used to be. So once you are moving to the market, you're also going to utilize these tools. Now you want to make sure that also you have a LinkedIn account, and this LinkedIn account probably you need to utilize it. I'm 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 gonna beautiful. Everybody is fine uh, with this, so I'm just gonna uh, the use what's some call um, the question. I'm then gonna launch it right now for you. Is I want to see how many you have used LinkedIn account, and I want to see how you are getting ready for the future. Please answer it. Okay, beautiful for the please, I just launched the second question, and okay, I'll I'll give it another 10, 15 seconds to answer your question, because it's important for you. Wonderful. Okay, here we go. So I just want to share this information with you. So if you notice, there is 63% of you guys said, yes, we do have an account, and 37 said no. Now, having an account is wonderful. Probably active in that account is more important also, because you need to create your network there, and it's a business community there, so you can find jobs, you can communicate with others who is a professional. It's like a Facebook but for the professionals. Now, recently, I've decided just to uh, launch a campaign for myself, is by saying every day, every day one, and which is mean I just every day publish one certification of training that I took on LinkedIn. So my network knows how well educated, well trained person. So that's a good idea, you know, to be a member of LinkedIn. I have already saw the results. Some people are trying to approach me, trying to, see that the fact that can I join them? Can I work with them? So it is a place where you can establish your network, and I'm pretty sure would be the way of the future. Now, I would like to share you the screen to show you about these tools that I created for you to utilize them. I've already have some students there from the different classes coming in there using these tools. Now, okay. Now, the first tool that I wanted you to see is the fact that we probably will go with Padlet. Now on the Padlet, if you're missing a member, if you're 4 or 3 and you're looking for a new one more, because I said every group should be 5 to 6, no less than 5 and no more than 6 in every group, you can announce there and you can say, I want to have, we are a group of 4 people, we're looking for 1 or 2. This is as a startup. Later on, we'll be utilizing it for educational and your feedback, and so it's a good way of having the whole team active in it. So once you go on a Padlet, you click on supply chain management, and there you will see that the fact you can make any announcement. I've already, made some. I look angry here, but I'm not. So don't worry about it. Uh, um, Here I was, surprised, to be in that place. So this is why you see me looking surprised and a little bit concerned, because I was sitting with the president of one of the universities and presenting to him some solution, and he was way out of the scope. So he wasn't, in a good mind. So you go there and you just make announcement and says, okay, we're a group of 4 looking 1 person to have 1 person, or group of 3 looking for to have a 2 person, or you say, I don't know which group I belong to, or I'm not belong to a group. So it is a collaboration tools that you will need to utilize. Now, the second thing that I like you to see is the fact that it's Yammer, and because you have already Microsoft, you can utilize this Yammer, and basically it is like a Facebook, but it's there where you can create your subgroup, you can have a conversation, you can share files, all the information, and start talking to each other. Even if you have a question, I can answer it once, and the other students can walk in and look at these answers. So I don't need to repeat it every week, repeating the same information. So we can focus on learning and do the collaboration as beautiful and as smooth as possible. And the third part that beside the murals that we have, the Facebook that I also created for this class and the other 2 classes. So here where all of us, I mean, all of you guys knows how to use the Facebook. I've already have people are creating rooms, talking on the Facebook and sharing whatever your interest. You don't have it has to be in a school interest. You can publish your pictures there. You can publish your something that you're interested in. Have your team, have your class to see you. And this is where I evaluate the whole participation. In the early stage, when I said class discussion as class participation, it doesn't have to be putting your microphone on and start talking. It's here I can see that you've been participating in a Facebook, in Yammer, in Padlet. These are all records kept and seeing how active you are already. Now already students who's participating in this, they will stay there in my mind. And always I'm gonna be, just in case, just in case you have an issue, you couldn't do well in your assignment, or you couldn't do well in your exam, your test. I always can go back and see how active you were and what's the knowledge of uh, level you have. So these are tools that you can utilize for creating knowledge and utilize them. Um, Let me know if you have any question, because this is the style of education probably in Canada. We all have an international background, and we know what kind of a style we have of education in our countries. And believe me, when I came in, I was very biased, because what I was taking in the first year university, I was taking it in a grade 11 or 12 in my back home. And I was saying, well, they're not teaching us a lot. And I said, why I'm in a university or in a college? But then I found out, no, they are teaching us the tools that it will keep us going on stronger and stronger as the time pass on. And this is where I want you to be in, is the tools that you need to utilize them to make a betterment of your life, of your future, of your work. And I'm pretty sure some of you guys will be looking for jobs before they graduate or while they're graduating. So LinkedIn, Facebook, use all these tools to find a job, or to set up your network to easy to find a job on that. So please use these three tools to set up uh, first stage of learning, which is to be in a group. Now, one more thing, and hopefully by next classes we will have a less these things to talk about it. Um, the assignment. I am fully aware there is some, from my previous experience, some group will have some difficulties because of one person in that group will not be working and leave it up to others. And this is how I offset that. End of this, when they deliver the assignment, all the members of the class of the group will send me a confidential report where they evaluate the whole work with the team. And if I have a group of five, and four of them mentioning one name that he is now working with us and he didn't do that much, then I have to reconsider his marks on that assignment, because this is a normal that the whole group will chip in. Now, once again, I want to say one thing. I'm pretty sure not all of you guys are strong in one thing. Some of you are good in presentation, some of you are good in research, some of you are good in writing. So utilize each other's strength to move up in one state. So once you become a group, you have discussion with each other and says, okay, let's divide the job. Mr. X and Y, they will do research, I will do their presentation, and she will do the write-up for the assignment. So it's a group work. And the reason is the fact that when you go to the market, um, you will need to do a group work. So feel free to use all these things to your benefit. These are tools that I set up for you to utilize them, and also to make us more focused on delivering materials and helping you in learning. It's more important than me delivering. So you are there to learn, and I'm there to support. And once you go out in the market, you're gonna use these as a journey. Have also, you know, all the account utilized for them, and it's like it depends on when you are using which tool and at what time. These are all gonna be part of your life, unless you're working for a factory and you have to be there. This is going to be your life way of living, and it is has the whole freedom. People don't see that. Most of us, they think we are facing the PC or the laptop all our life. Is actually when we are facing the PC or the laptop, we are enjoying it. In the same time, this PC and laptop, if we are using it in the right way, it's giving us so much freedom to do the rest of the things, to move anywhere we want, to work from anywhere we want. So look at it this way, and I hope if you have any questions, you always can write me an email, or you can, you know, find me on the chat to discuss these matters. Now, um, these for the last three classes, we have taken so much time just to set you up for collaboration and move on with the engine moving smoothly. And hopefully by next week we'll go faster, and the week after we go faster and faster. So please utilize these tools and make announcement whether you are, you know, you have a full group, and you can send me the whole full group of it. Is there any question? Okay, so wonderful, no questions. Now, let me have some tea. That doesn't look like me, by the way. I look much better. Uh, this guy's bald, I have hair, so don't worry about it. Now, um, as you know, we are in a week 4 right now, and we already behind. So we need to move on quickly. I will give you a breaks between, to take you know, restart again. But you know, later on we'll take a break. So I will start the class, and if you have any question, please write to me. And feel free, any type of question, any question. There is no stupid question. All the questions are good questions. So keep in mind, feel free about it. This is a culture that we need to embrace, and it's going to take us a courage from inside to take this type of working habit. So I will share um, probably a very short video. Let me see if it's there. Okay. This one is one of my colleagues that I work with them. They're located in Montreal. And each one of us were specialized in something. It's called tech vendor, which is technology evaluation centers. And they do select softwares for certain industries. So I would like you to see this, and then we get into on the lecture.
supply chain and the wholesale distribution industry. Well, joining us to speak about that today is Robert Eastman, Senior Analyst, Supply Chain Management at Technology Evaluation Centers. Well, Bob, welcome.
Nice to join you this morning.
Bob, we want to talk, of course, about the wholesale distribution industry, but maybe we should start with a definition of it. Just exactly what do we mean when we talk about that industry?
Well, that's interesting because my feeling is that when you talk about the wholesale distribution industry, at some level, it's always a generalization because underneath that is really upwards of 70 different types of wholesale distribution companies. And so if you're talking grocery distribution, that's going to be a lot different than a conversation around drug and pharma distribution, and obviously a lot different than around industrial distribution. So you really do need to get down into the details and understand that there's different issues going on in different parts of the wholesale distribution industry.
You know, we want to talk about some of those issues. We want to talk about some of those challenges. But let me ask you this as a sort of a threshold question. Let's talk about the health, if you will, of the wholesale distribution industry. How would you evaluate that? What would you say that is?
Well, you know, the wholesale distribution industry has gone through some, sort of the same ups and downs a lot of other industries have gone through. And I think in 2011, what we heard and what we saw, 2011, 2012, they were seeing more optimism. I think now we're seeing maybe a little more pessimism in the industry. There's a little more uncertainty, Affordable Care Act and things going on in Europe, et cetera. So there's a little more pessimism now, I would say. There's a lot of merger and acquisition activity. So there's some consolidation going on in the industry, which may be reflective of that uncertainty. So, we are, again, talking about a broad-based industry. There's pockets of great health and great optimism. If I had to generalize, Russell, I would have to say there's probably a little more pessimism in 2013 than there was in perhaps 2012.
You know, you mentioned earlier that there are different industries, if you will, of course, where their wholesale activity, distribution activity is going on. And I wonder if the health picture that you just described is something that varies from one industry to another. Would that be the case? Or is pretty much wholesale distribution the same across the board in terms of this health?
No, I would say there are pockets. I mean, certainly if you're looking at drug and pharmaceutical, obviously a big concern there are the regulatory issues that they have to face. In general, there's I would say a hyper competitiveness across the industry. So that is sort of common. But again, grocery and the grocery distribution industry is obviously a lot different than pharma, and so I would say that there are pockets. Overall, there's a general pessimism, but there is also, a great level of sort of an innovative spirit going on in the industry. So there's hope, but there's also a general pessimism, I would say, Russell.
Let's talk about some of with a little bit more specificity, some of the challenges that the wholesale distribution industry is facing. And then let's discuss the technology that is being used to counter those challenges, those difficulties. How would you characterize that? You know,
one thing that comes to mind when I hear about, when we talk about challenges in the distribution industry is disintermediation. You know, we know that companies are ever more focused on value delivery, value creation. In a lot of cases, Russell, that means shortening that supply chain to the extent that they can, and companies are trying to make sure that every piece of that supply chain is delivering value. And unfortunately, when you're talking about that, I mean, the question comes up. A lot of companies look to see where they can shorten their supply chain, and a lot of times that focus falls on the wholesale distributor. So the whole thing of disintermediation is probably one of the biggest challenges. And again, just we're talking about a relatively low margin business in a lot of cases and a highly fragmented industry. So all those things sort of combine to make for some very special challenges that other industries don't face.
Well, given that those margins are so thin, then clearly meeting those challenges is imperative. Specific types of technology then that would be used to help them do that. How would you characterize those? What would those be?
Right. Well, there's two things that come to mind there, Russell. Wholesale distributors, one, have to focus on operational effectiveness. And the other thing that every distributor is focusing on is revenue generation. So they're looking at investments in those two areas. So 360-degree view of the customer is one. Distributors don't want to pass up any revenue opportunity. So it's a case of looking at every customer and looking at all the interactions you have with that customer. Another thing we hear wholesale distributors focusing on is profitability. So, you want to serve every customer profitably, and certainly if there's customers that, are not profitable for you, then wholesale distributors have to consider, what they do with that customer. So those are a couple that come to mind. The technology investments that really address revenue generation are very big to wholesale distributors right now.
Given once again the margins being as thin as they are, I would think that this is an area that is ripe for innovation. What exactly is going on in this area in terms of innovation that helps these companies overcome these barriers and be able to live and survive with these very thin margins that they are dealing with?
I put those into a couple different categories. One are technology investments, and others would be industry-wide innovation. Now, under the umbrella of industry innovation, a couple of very interesting developments. Amazon.com has decided to come into the industry and act as a distributor, and followed shortly thereafter by Google. So both these companies are coming in and doing what I would call disruptive innovation in the industry. There's also examples like Fastenal, who is pursuing a fascinating strategy around what they call distributor managed inventory. And their distributor managed inventory is really centering around vending machines. So if you look at Fastenal's plans for rolling out vending machines, it's very aggressive. I think between 2010 and 2011, they had rolled out something like 7,000 vending machines. By the end of 2013, they think they're going to have 30,000 machines installed. So this is a real disruptive innovation where they're essentially changing the game a bit and installing vending machines on site at customers. So the customer now has a more convenient way, to get their supplies, more convenient billing. Fascinating to watch, and that's going to be a real disruptive innovation.
Let me just ask you about that for a moment.
Sure.
Those vending machines will be vending what? What are the products inside?
There's a range of things. It can be MRO supplies. It can be wrenches. It can be tools. It can be replacement kinds of things. I think Fastenal has targeted maybe several different categories. So it can be a range of things depending on the customer's needs.
Mm-hmm. So it'll be all this inventory will be kept on site and will be to hand, quite literally, when needed.
That's right, and it really looks like a vending machine. So the way they're rolling it out is just fascinating to watch, and I think it's a real game changer.
Going forward, what would you say? Let's look down the road a bit, crystal ball time. Where are we going in wholesale distribution? Where's the industry going?
Well, the future, I think, is just a little bit uncertain. Wholesale distributors have always played a real critical role in the economy. If you think about it, it's a $5 trillion contribution they're making to the economy, something like 300,000 or 400,000 different distributors. So they've played a real role. Amazon and Google are going to upset things a little bit. There's a lot of consolidation going on in the industry. There's no doubt in my mind that wholesale distributors play a critical role. And so the future longer term is a little bit uncertain. And one of the disruptive innovations we shouldn't overlook is 3D printing. Mm-hmm. Imagine the possibility now of companies being able to print out a part when they want one. And some people are saying that impact is going to be felt 3 years from now. Some people are saying 5 years. Some people are thinking 10 years. I would think that every wholesale distributor would be sitting up and taking note of this. And that's going to be an interesting development to watch.
Well, uncertain future, as you say, but nevertheless, clearly wholesale distributors will have a major part to play in that future. Bob, listen, I know you're busy, but you took time to meet with us today. Thank you very much for that.
Russell, it was great talking with you.
Well, it's Bob Eastman, Technology Evaluation Centers, and speaking with us today about the supply chain and the role that the wholesale distribution industry plays in it. Well, thank you for watching.
This is a colleague of mine. You can see he's probably one of the youngest guys working in Technology Evaluation Center that are located in Montreal, and everybody were specialized in certain. And this he was talking about like 7 years or 8 years ago. He was talking about something that's happening today. So it is very interesting to see these things is on the happening now. The question: am I going to go? Yes, I'm going to post these on the e-learning, or give you the links for it, where you go to the channel that I created on the YouTube, where you can watch this video again and again and take your notes. So these are options that you will have to utilize these tools. Now, we will, before we start the lecture, probably, we'll take the 10 minutes break. And after the 10 minutes break, we will go live with the lectures. Now, these are going to be, all these things, all on the e-learning. Some of them will be posted on e-learning, and if it's not posted on the e-learning, you will have the links who takes you to these courses. Now, they are preparing a Dropbox for us, where we can have these videos that we are recording right now, have them on the Dropbox, and you can download it later on. But you also can download it using the YouTube channel, which is, I did already sent it a few times to you guys. And anytime I'm uploading a new class, I'm sending you the link for it. So by clicking on the link, it will take you straight to these courses that have been recorded, and you can look at the course that you wanted to download or to see, and you can replay it or download it also. So I'm trying to give you options where you can use them, but also make sure that you're utilizing, once again, the Padlet and all these tools that I showed you earlier to collaborate with each other, to set up the teams, because end of this week, I need this task of setting up the teams completed, so we want to move on with the next thing. So please make sure that the fact that you are set up your team 5 or minimum 5, maximum 6 people. Okay, so we'll take a break for 10 minutes, and we will come back at 10 after 2. I'll be available for answering any questions. We'll be back at 10 after 2. And we will start right away when 10 after 2, please. So take a break, shorter break, 10 minutes, and we'll come back again. Okay, we're back. See if you guys are, yes, you are there. We'll start the class, and I will share now, just one more announcement. The fact, I'm trying to have all these information recorded for you and not kept in a certain time. So if you miss the class, you can always go back to this information. And that probably something you will probably, even in exam times, you will be using it. Okay. So we saw this video, and as I said, this gentleman he works with us excuse me, in Technology Evaluation Center. And all of us are probably, our job, the way we see it, we help the customers who is planning to implement a software or upgrade or replace the software with something else. We help them to select the best fit software. So when we say best fit, means that the fact they are probably, we should know about the industry, first of all. And we separate the objective selection from subjective selection. And one day once we feel ahead of everything, that would be part of your a project of selecting best fit softwares. And you need to find out the subjective part from the objective part, and according to the information that you're going to gain in this class. And once you go to the market, you are able to, to help the owners to find a best fit that meets current needs and the future need. Because one thing that you need to know, you cannot every 3 or 6 months select an ERP, supply chain management solution, or an ERP solution to replace the old one. It costs money, effort, and time. So one selection should be fit for for the next 5 years. We'll try to finish this chapter, and hopefully we can move on with the next chapter. Now, feel free to write down any questions that you have or speak to me accordingly. Okay. So in this chapter, we will be talking about strategy and sustainability. So the concept of the learning will be to know what's a sustainability, sustainable business strategy, and how to relate it to operation and supply chain management. Define the operation and supply chain strategy. We're also going to explain about the how do we implement operation using this strategy. Understand why strategy have implication relative to a business risk, and evaluate the productivities in operation and supply chain management. Okay. Before we start, we just to talk about why do we need a strategy and strategy plan. And in one of the class, I explained that the fact that when you are alone in a boat and you're going from point A to point B, it's very easy for you to maneuver in the sea and reach to point B from point A. But if you are in a middle-sized ship or a large ship, then probably you need to have a plan, and you need to coordinate that plan with everybody else, because you cannot really just go, oh, okay, I'm going to move from point A to point B, because you might run to icebergs, you run to mountains, an island, and you need to maneuver between that. And maneuvering between that might take more gas, more energy, more timing, and all these things. So you need to share this plan, how you're going to go from point A to B, because there is a team with you who's going to work with you on that successfully. So it's the same thing with companies. They do have, even if it's made of 2 people, you need to build or share the business strategy with your partner. And if you're bigger companies, that you also need to, have a well-known set up a business strategy, so everybody knows their duties and where they are, you're taking them. Or if you're a member of that company, you know exactly how you're gonna help in delivering such thing. Okay, so this is why you need a business strategy. Now, the firm's strategy describe of how it will create and sustain for its current shareholders. There is two parts. There is a shareholders and there is stakeholders. So the stakeholders, um, they're different than the shareholders, and basically the shareholders are individual or companies that legally owns that company. When we talk about stakeholders, are individual organization who are directly or indirectly influenced or will influence by the action the firm will take. So these are two different issues that when you're going to the market, you need to differentiate between shareholders and the stakeholders. A company might have people invested in it, so they are the shareholders, and they're looking to make a profit in it. But same time, this company could be um, responsible for the society, for the government, for the employees who's working there. So these are all stakeholders. So any decision should be taken into consideration of well-being of all these stakeholders in the firm. And the goal of sustainability means that the scope of the firm's strategy must be focused in the three areas. So when you are trying to operate and keep on operating, you need to take into consideration the 3 points, which is mentioned here. The first part is that you look at the economic side. The shareholder must be making money, making compensation via a competitive return. So if he's putting $1,000, he needs to see that his $1,000 making return for him worth of investing. Otherwise, he can take out this 1,000 and go somewhere else. So it needs to see that there is a return on it. On the same time, there is also the triple bottom line is the social, which is part of the stakeholders thing. So the best business practice that should be fair to the labor, to the community, and to the region in the firm that you're conducting the business, and that could be very valuable issue, because if you're not doing it that way, you might not getting more businesses from influential people. And the third part is the environment. So the company should protect the environment as much as possible. You don't want to have your company goes on public saying, okay, these people dumping chemical things into the river, or once Tylenol found out there is some person did put some poisons in some of the pills 20 years ago. They went and collected all this medicine and dumped it in a separate place. So that's the social and the environmental responsibility that when you are working for a mid-size or small size or large size companies. So the triple bottom lines means that you are probably need to make sure that you have economic prosperities, that you're making money, you're making a profit for the shareholders. You also have to have social responsibilities that you are responsible for the stakeholders, and you also doing your best to be environmental friendly and good for your environment. Now, the operation and supply chain management, it is a strategy. It's setting a broad policy and plans using the resource of the firm. So looking at the firm, and you are utilizing the resources that you have, and you're setting a broad plan. Now, under the business strategy, usually plan, there is other plans comes in, which is the marketing, the sales plan, the marketing plan, the supply chain plan. All these should fit within the strategy that's built in. So the corporate strategy provide the overall direction and the coordination operation goals with those of the larger organization. So the corporate strategy has uh, two-way of communication, one for the top mother company and one for the whole departments, companies within the company. Now, operation effectiveness, uh, uh, performing activities in a manner that implement the strategy priorities at a very low cost. So you look at the business strategy, and then you come up with a supply chain management strategy where you're minimizing the cost, you mitigating the risk, and you implementing the best manner in the work. Now, but they have a certain goals, a competitive dimension. It has to be price sensitive, where you make the product and deliver the service at a very cheap price, cheapest possible. But in the same time, you need to deliver the quality, the make a great product or deliver a great services. There is sometimes you have to look at the speed of deliveries. So you might need to have a very quick delivery or slower, depend on the type of the business and the competitive environment that you are involved in it. So balancing between the quality and the speed of delivery. Uh, I think delivery reliabilities is very important, even with in comparison with the speed. So if you're promising that you're going to deliver, you will be delivering that. Want to make sure the customers is fully aware when you are delivering it. Especially if you now you can look at the biggest supply chain logistic companies. You go on the site and you can see that they telling you how many days remaining to have things is delivered to you, where it's located now, the whole thing. So you can notice that the things is moving when it's moving. That's what part of the delivery reliabilities. As I said, the change, you need to cope with the change. There is today is with this situation, you need to cope with sometimes how things can be delivered. Maybe the border is closed. You want to find out how we can deliver this to the customers, and it is very important to cope with the change in demand. Sometimes your daily requirement is 10 units, but in a certain days you will have 1,000 units needed. So you need also to cope with that. You need to know ahead of how the cycle of requirement or the orders or demand is changing. There's certain stuff during Christmas time. It needs to be delivered before the Christmas on a much larger quantity, bigger quantities. Yet after the Christmas, they are useless. Um, for example, the other thing is like, for example, calendars. if you don't have your calendars printed and ready before Christmas or in early January, you will have a less chance to give away as a gift to the calendar to your potential customer or to your customer. And why do I need to give them a gift as a calendar? Because they will be looking at it every day. And remember that your company has given these things to them. So they will be looking at you as a potential suppliers for whatever the product. So that if you are delivering your calendar in February, the potential customer already have some calendar hanging on the wall for him. So he's not going to hang your calendar beside the other calendar. So you want to make sure there's certain time of as a supplier to deliver these things. Um, uh, Flexibilities. We mentioned that the fact that you need to have to be very flexible in amount that you need to deliver, the type of things that you're going to deliver, and set up a new products coming in with a speed. And as I said, one of the good example when you look at Nokia, they started as a company who cuts trees in the jungle, and then making papers of it, but they became a mobile company. So during that time, they have to switch products, and eventually they became a very well known a mobile company. And then now their mobile is dying, but they are very well known for the switches. Recently, Canada, some of the bigger players of telecommunication in Canada, they dropped Huawei and they signed up with Nokia to implement the 5G. So Nokia is not out of the market, just as we are not aware of what they are supplying now. But what they're supplying is a much profit oriented product with a less headache. So they'll keep switching from, with a very speed. And the other things is like a technical assistant, meeting in a with the partners, with the suppliers, meeting with the team on a lunch, all these things. It's part of the competitive dimension that you will have. Now, some of the time you might end up with some product trade-offs. You cannot have all these there for you working fine. So you need to do some trade-offs between the price and the quality of the product, timing of deliveries. All these things might switch. So if somebody, you tell them $30 delivering the product plus shipping and handling. So the shipping and handling, if you're delivering by car, is different than you're delivering by train, then it's different by plane. So if you ask you for, should be delivered within 24 hours, that's a plane, and that would probably cost more. So you need to, it's not a perfect word, and you need to do, some trade-off. But the most important thing is the fact that you need to concentrate on resource that characteristics of you, is the fact that what's your core thing, and you focus on the core thing. So this gentleman that you saw in the video, first thing he's going to come to your company, for example, and looks at your core business, what is your core business, what's making the bread and butter for you, and he tries to make his strength there and then build the rest. So at the core is the one who makes the profit and makes things as governed, and don't try to simultaneously excel on a competition dimensions. For example, you see this example in your book talking about travel company travel industry company trying to compete with another travel industry company, but they end up losing the business because they saw the other company is offering cheaper ticket because they are not providing luggage, taking care of it, or they're not allowing more than one bag. They're charging for luggage. They wanted to do the same thing, but they wanted to keep their own business. So the customer the traveler end up getting confused of how to do this. And they could not see whether this flight, new flight, is it called light, is will pay the luggage or not. So people start being uncomfortable with it, and they lost the intention. So you need to focus on your core business and see if you can compete in that field. So straddling means that seeking to match a successful competition by adding a feature, services, or technology to your existing business. But often this is a risky, as was said in the continental flights, they're trying to match other flight companies. So you cannot really match everything, but you can seek the ones who is what you call order winner and order qualifier. Now, an order winner, an order qualifier is once your product and your service becomes a qualifier. Now, if you are working in, for example, set proposal manager, bid manager, your job is first things you're going to do is to be qualified when you're submitting your initial bid, because they will publish RFIs and you have to answer. RFI stands for request for information. There will be 100 company answering the RFIs. Out of these, maybe 4 or 5 of them will be qualified, meeting the requirement. So they call them order qualifier. Now, after that, you need to be an order winner. So the qualifier are those the screen dimensions, the screening the dimensions that permit a firm product to produce to consider to be purchased from it. Let's say you want to buy a laptop and you want a built-in probably a camera, and now all the laptops has built-in cameras. Plus, you want in the laptop built-in Microsoft application. Now you go and look at all the laptops, you find that Acer, for example, they don't have built-in Microsoft application, so you disqualify them. The rest of laptops are qualified. Now, then you say, okay, I'm looking for the cheapest one. Now you have 6 or 7 of them that they are cheapest one. Then you find that IBM has the cheapest product with the same qualification. And that's what you call an order winner, because the price become a cheaper. So there are 2 feature customer will not ignore. So a customer says, I want a laptop that built in Microsoft application in it. That cannot be ignored. And when they see Acer doesn't have it, so they will ignore it. And there is a feature that the customer used to determine what the product ultimately purchased. So the second, which is the order one, and says, I'm looking for a $500 laptop. And then when you look, you see IBM has the $500 laptop, so you buy that one. And the others is above the $500. So there is 2 different things that you need to look at them. Let me know if you have any question, please. Now, as a supplier, you need to assist the risk. So any type of the strategy you're going to take, it comes with a risk. There is no risk-free uh, business. Some of them are high risk, some of them low risk, but some of them are probabilities of risk. And we will be talking more about all these types with the coming chapters. And we do a calculation for them. We're going to use some math, but I'm trying to give you the full concept before we get into these things. So there is uncertainties in the environment that cause the supply chain planner to evaluate the relative riskiness of their strategy. In a certain way, an example I will show you later is, for example, if you are buying things from Bangladesh, but you know that these products can be delivered sometimes cannot be delivered due to tsunami or anything else. So you go and set up a backup resource from India and a backup resource from China and backup resource from Pakistan because you want these resources keeps coming. So this is that kind of it could be an environmental uncertainties that causing these issues. Um, so the likelihood of this will be a disruption, the impact abilities of continue the business. So you have two types of risk, one internal risk and the likelihood that one of your line of productions, one of the machines breaks, and that will stop you from producing on time, or could be your trucks that delivering these materials breaks, doesn't work, or there is a strike. That's internal thing. The external, there might be something that you cannot control it, which is the environment. As we have now with the COVID-19, it's something that we cannot control it. So there is two likelihood of taking a risk, a disruptions and supply chain coordination. Most of the time, you will be looking at the both things and what's the how to mitigate. We're not going to cancel the whole risk, but we can minimize it to as a possible risk. So um, as a plan, you need to identify the source of potential disruption. The second, assess the potential impact of the risk and develop plan to mitigate the risk. See, the trick is here is once you identify the source of potential disruption, you need to see the chance of this disruptions happening. If it's happening 2 or 3% every, the whole life of the span, then you need to probably emphasize less on it than the ones who it's happening always. That's one thing. But in the same time, you need to assess the size of that thing. So if you having your products come in from India and then you process it here in Canada and you supply it, for example, to Japan. So what's the chance of having a monsoon in India, which is will stop, for example, delivering the supply part of it? And what's the chance of an earthquake in Japan? So these, you need to look at the chance and also need to look at the cause of the destruction that's going to happen, the distribution that is going to happen. Um, Here's where we say, okay, we have a bank in Canada. We are in a safe country. We don't have anybody invading us, for example. We're not going to get into war. So why I am in a bank, working in a bank, trying to do a disaster recovery and a backup every week and have these things flying to overseas because I'm dealing in a money, and any disruption in this record, it's going to be affecting the whole my banking system. So it might not happen, But when it's happened, it's going to destroy the whole image of having a bank, my bank, and people will take their money out and go somewhere else. Imagine if somebody announced that they lost $5,000 in their bank account with any bank that's in Canada. How many people will be taking their money out and going somewhere else? So this is where the chance of happening is a very minimum, but in the same time, you need to take it into consideration because how much it's going to affect the businesses. Now, when you have the products coming in from the States and you have products coming in from India, and the chance of the products is States because of the border is closed, still going to have the products coming in from India and to process it. So the customer does not care where you get your material, initial material from. And if one of them gets disrupted for some reason, you don't have a problem with that. You can continue developing. So it's not only the, the, the chance of this risk is not happening, how much is affecting your business. And in the natural disaster, the contingency planning, alternative site, insurance, all these you need to do to mitigate the risk of the strategy, risk mitigation. Country risk, you do hedging currencies, could be the currency goes up and down, like what's happening in Canada now. The price of the dollar went way down. So it's a good time for suppliers from Australia, from USA, buying things now for the next 5 years. That's how you do a country risk mitigation. Suppliers, you create a multiple suppliers. And for the logistics, you have enough stock in your logistics. Now, keep in mind, we had this situation with the COVID when the border was closed and the trucks, everything was closed between USA and Canada, except the trucks kept moving back and forth. And the reason, because people need the product, and lots of people, lots of companies, they don't have enough stock in a safety for them. So they had to keep the border open. And the other issue that they were facing is these poor truckers felt very sorry for them. They were not giving any other while they're traveling across Canada and from USA to Canada, putting their life in risk. Yet you go to a gas station, you want to have a coffee, and you want to go to the washroom to wash up on everything. The coffee shop says, my washroom is closed. And that small problems cause lots of truckers to stop their businesses. So the premier came in and says, listen, your coffee on us. Anytime you stop as a trucker, you stop in Tim Horton, you just take a coffee, we pay for it. Just to promote this trucking business and the truckers. And they said they will penalize any Tim Hortons or any coffee shop or restaurant not to open their washrooms to the truckers, especially the truckers. So small stuff, you might look at it to stop this detailed tracking and tracking, and always find a way of alternative suppliers. So we don't see this a problem, but if you talk to a trucker, he says, well, I cannot drive 48 hours without washing my face, without going to the washroom, without having a coffee. So the premier came in and says, coffee on us, all the washrooms open for you guys. Anybody who stops you from using the washroom, just let us, and we will penalize them. So, so the logistic failure is a very important thing to consider. The supplier failure is a very important thing to consider. You always need to put enough supply in your organization. Let me know if you have any question. So you create kind of a matrix, and you try to allocate which one you're have a moderate impact on your business, and which one is the high impact on it. And then according to that, you will be, trying to find a solution for these and convert it from red to a green. Um, Different supply chain strategies are exposed to a specific type of risk. So you need the supply chain risk matrix show the level and the type of the risk that and if you can change everything to green, then you are having a lean business. Now, you also, as a member of the supply or of manufacturing, you're always looking at the productivities measurement. Excuse me. And how well is your resource are used? We said that in your when you're doing a supply chain management business, you're working according to the business strategy, and you need to make it the cheapest possible. So once you how to do it as cheap as possible, you do a productivities. Besides, you find the cheapest resources, you need to look at the productivities, and the productivities is there's different type of productivity you can measure. And you can do total outputs to inputs, or you can do a relative productivity is a relative measures where you compare certain things to the inputs. But overall, you have to do it in comparison. What I mean in comparison here, you have to do it two things. You can do it according to the competition, compare it with the competition, and see the percentage of your productivity. If it's 50 and your competition is 60, you need to reach up to 60 to be in competitive situation. So you need to compare it with your competition. The other way of doing it is you compare your productivities in historical. So this year, if you were doing your productivity 60 or 70, you plan to go up to 80. So you will look inside and start comparing internally. So these are two ways of measuring your productivity. You cannot have a productivity stands alone. When you say my productivity is 66 compared to what? To the competition or to the internal process. So, and then there is different type of productivities. There is a partial productivities, which is you measure, compare output to a single input. So to your output, to gas that you're spending, to electricity that you're spending, to truck that you are operating, that it's a partial productivity. Now, you might have it few of them. So your output compared to using the car, your own cars, and gas, and the energy that you are. So that's a multi-factor of productivity you want to measure. Or the total, as we said, the total output divided on total input and shows in a percentage wise. Now there is a target when it comes to when you're talking about products compared to productivity when it comes to services. There are two different target that you have to establish. Now, very quickly, here is a sample that you can find it in your book. If you go to McGraw-Hill, you can download this sample, and you have the input and output production data. Here's the partial measures. You can compare partially, as I said, to your material, to energy, to labor, to capital. Or you can add all of them together, or you can have a combination of them. So your output compared to adding labor, capital, energy, or your output, labor, capital, material. So the difference here is energy and material. So that's a multi-factor measurement productivity. Or as we said, is the total, which is output divided by the input or good and service produced to all resources. And you derive this as a percentage from the financial sheet that you get, and you do your calculation, the percentage wise will come up. So this is how you do a productivity measurement. Okay. Now, just to make a few, I think we will stop because we will be talking about, and on the next class, more details. Now we have covered chapter 1 and 2, and the next class we'll be talking about chapter 4. Chapter 3, I will leave it for later on. I will announce it when we're going to do chapter 4. You need to have these books is ready for you. Please go to McGraw-Hill there and look at these books and start using it. Now, let me see if this is happening here. Now we're trying to open it. It's in the Excel sheet, and the Excel sheet is showing that the fact that we are having a finished unit goods, work in a process, dividends, all these accounting tools, and then this is how you are. You have a total output 13,500, and then you have different total input, and then you do a partial probably to do the measurement for it. Now, just very quickly, I will introduce you to the next chapter, and we will talk about it in the next class. And let me know if you have a question. Next chapter. Okay, this is chapter 4. Okay. On the next class, we will talk about the strategic capacity management, and there we'll be talking about probably we'll talk about capacity management and why it's strategic and very important. We'll use lots of examples, how to plan the capacity. We're also going to evaluate a different, very important, the decision tree, how it works. Now, there is softwares to do that, but to utilize these softwares, we need to understand what's the concept behind it. So we will be focusing a lot of time on going on examples of doing a decision tree and how we can select utilizing decision tree, because most of the supply chain management and the operation utilize this making a decision, and would be very clear to the management because most of the management looks at numbers, and all of the management actually looks at numbers. So you need to be very clear on that. Now, by now, so let me know if you have any question, I will publish this on YouTube for you guys. I will send you the link on Moodle, on our e-learning. Also, you will please go to Padlet, Facebook, and Yammer. Very important to utilize Yammer to do the collaboration. Today, the collaboration is probably going to do some, group allocation. Later on, we will be using it for improve our learning. And please have a LinkedIn account also. Please feel free to leave. And anybody who has a question, please write it to me or speak to me. I will be glad to answer it. You have a good week. Have a good weekdays.